Good morning. It's Wednesday, time for a couples devotional. We are looking at our marriage principle number 2, which is trust is earned, not freely given. We learn that trust is a reactive response based on the fact if the other person has proven to be reliable. It's dependent upon the other person's heart to show that they are trustworthy. So make sure in your marriage that you both are looking to earn trust from one another. That is so important. We want to talk for a few minutes today about forgiveness and this idea that forgiveness is kind of the opposite in nature because forgiveness is proactive. It's dependent upon your own heart. Forgiveness is really something that is not at all reliant upon somebody else. It is all about, am I going to decide in my own heart to extend forgiveness to someone?
Now, Paul writes about this in Ephesians chapter 4, and there he talks about instructions for Christian living. Let me just read some of this to you, and we'll work our way up to when he talks about forgiveness. He says, "So I tell you this, and insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as Gentiles do, in the futility of their thinking. They are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them, due to the hardening of their hearts." He goes on, he says, "But that's not how you learned to live. When you heard about Christ, you were taught in him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus. You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, and to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness." This is such good stuff. Maybe you can pause this and read this some more or spend some more time in this later on. But let's go on toward the bottom. He says, put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor. He says, don't sin. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry. You can see he's building his way up to sort of the payoff we're going to see at the end of the passage. And he says, don't give the devil a foothold. That living in darkness and in anger and unforgiveness gives the devil a foothold. He goes in 29 now, he says, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And then in verse 31 he says, get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. And then he says this, in verse 32, here's the payoff: be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ forgave you. So this is a command. Last week we saw that you shouldn't freely trust, but this week we see that you should freely forgive. It's a command that we forgive one another. And we'll talk about that more next week because forgiveness is such a huge thing. So many people have a hard time with it. But for today, just suffice it to say that be a forgiving person. Learn to forgive because it's helpful for you in your own heart. So take some time this morning and talk about this and pray about it together. We'll see you tomorrow.